We have a bonus segment that I forgot to. We're not going to spend that much time on it, Ian. There was a huge collection in Milwaukee, retro collection, that was reported on in the Milwaukee Record. And for $30,000. And what's interesting about this collection, we talked about collections before in the podcast. This one doesn't seem extremely overpriced.
No, it doesn't.
I would say that.
Yeah.
I put the link there, Ian, at the bottom of the Q&A that you can see it. So this collection, the other cool thing about this one, on this, you can look at the pictures. It includes like the World of Nintendo display, like I have, the fiber optic one. It has those cool Game Boy, Super Nintendo shelf displays where the actual games and the boxes go in.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a decent amount of games. Now, I'm not going to postulate this is worth $30,000, but this isn't like the ones we've covered in the past. They're like $89,000 for
$20,000 worth of games.
Yeah. There's a Pac-Man chalkboard. There's the Legend of Zelda little treasure chest to store toys on it. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
It is.
And there's also a Google Doc of the items that you can click on. So what I don't like about a lot of the ones we've covered in the past, it'd be like, 3,000 games, and I'll list like 50 of them. You can guess what the fucking rest of them are.
Right. No, this lists all of them.
Do you want to go through the list?
Well, you can pull up the list while I talk for a little bit.
Yeah, okay. I already pulled the list up. Go ahead and talk.
So, what is interesting to me is that this collection and this person selling it, it seems to be part of a larger trend, though. While this one's definitely more reasonable, and I like that. I like that this guy's being real reasonable about his collection and his offer. But it's kind of a trend that we're seeing. It's these people who are selling off their collections because they need the space. They're married. They're getting ready to start a family. And they're realizing they don't have the room for this anymore. They don't have a game room anymore. And suddenly they don't have space for this. So they got to sell it off.
And then they got in touch with me, Ian.
Huh?
They emailed me.
Right. But the reason I want to kind of bring this up is this person never probably thought that they would get rid of their game room. And I'm just going to say it real quick. All these people who talk about how they're never going to get rid of their games and repro labels don't hurt anyone and all this sort of stuff, you might find yourself in a position at some point where all of a sudden you're going to get rid of your games real quick and, oh my God, they're out in the wild again. So you may think that your game collection is permanent right now, but it's not. And, you know what? I admire this guy for offering up his collection and just saying he wants people to enjoy it and offering a reasonable price. But, yeah, Pat, take it away with the list.
So we got 536 NES games. So not a full library, but a respectable size library. How many in the box there? Less than 100. Super Nintendo, you're talking, let's see how many Super Nintendo. It's a Google Doc, but you can't edit it. There is about 80 Super Nintendo games. Okay, not as much there, but you got like your heavy hitter popular ones, like you got your Super Mario, all the Super Mario games and RPG and Super Metroid, and you got your Zombie Ate My Neighbors, Zelda Link to the Past, Super Metroid. So you got all the fun ones.
Right.
So we're not talking not a huge amount of money. Chrono Trigger, Castlevania 4, all Donkey Kong countries, the Kirby games. So that's a respectable amount of money right there. Again, we're trying to build up to 30. I'm not saying 30 is a proper number, but
it's not as outlandish as what other
stuff that
people,
we've seen.
Right, because we've seen other collections that ask insane amounts, but they don't have things like stadium events or Little Samson. This is a guy who's at least adjusting somewhat for not having those.
115 N64 games. Many of those are in the box, by the way. And actually a decent amount of the Super Nintendo ones are in the box too. And you have obviously your Mario parties, your Mario Kart, your Mario Golf, Pilot Wings, Powerpuff Girls, Chemical Extraction, all your Zelda versions. Game Boy, only like 10. Then you have your systems. You have he has every N64 variant system: Smoke, Watermelon, Lime Green.
He did. I remember seeing that.
Complete in box green.
He had a lot of boxed
yellow
and
controllers
systems.
All the controllers. Excuse me. He has all the controllers. A lot in the box. Then he has expansion ports. He has a bunch of. Wow, who has more than 3 NES system boxes? I mean, who does that? And then I like all the promo and displays.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
Yep.
That's, to me, where the money starts coming
Come in. Yep.
Because when you start averaging out, for example, like I said, like those shelf displays where you put the NES carts in. Depending on you, I mean, it's hard to price those out. But you go to an auction at like a PRGE at Portland, those can go for $500 or more. Easily each. I mean, easily. Those displays. That fiber optic, you can get probably $1,000 for that at this point, just for that. So that's what I mean. When you really get into it, you can see how this starts piling up. Not saying 30,000, but 15, 20. That's probably not in the realm of possibility.
And I mean, unlike the other ones where it's obscene, at least this one, for someone with the money to just be like, if you have the money, okay, for convenience sake, there is, I guess I have slightly less of a qualm with this one for just being like, okay, here, I'm getting it all right now.
And by the way, Robert Stack, update. That used to freak me out as a fucking kid.
I fucking love the stack, man. Anyways, shame he's dead. Rest in peace.
Update, it's no longer listed for sale. So this could have been a private deal, and he already pulled the listing. I wish he emailed me back, but he did email me because I asked questions like, when did you start collecting? Why are you getting out? So I'm just going to read the email, then we're going to get out of here and we're going to get some Wendy's. I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s and played a ton of NES, Super Nintendo. During high school, most of the games I acquired as a kid sat in my grandma's basement, but I picked up the hobby again in college. For the past few years, I spent most weekends at garage sales, flea markets, auctions, making Craigslist deals, etc. I would say 80% of my collection came locally. Wow, that's a high percentage. But a few pieces were from eBay. The Rent N64 banner and one clock were nice eBay snipes. WON clock, not sure what that is. I asked him if he's keeping anything.
Nintendo clock.
I'm only keeping what is it? One Nintendo clock?
World of Nintendo.
Oh, World of Nintendo clock. I'm only keeping one N64 / Super Nintendo / NES console and my favorite double-sided Super Mario sign. That double-sided sign can go for like $400 or $500 probably. Yeah. Point. Again, signs go for a lot. My plan is to buy EverDrives for the collection. I said after the collection's gone. I really like the idea because I can still play my favorite games on the original hardware. More and more people are doing that.
I did it with my NES collection.
Someone in Game On Expo told me they're doing that specifically.
Yeah.
My favorite system to collect for is N64. Here's a cool story. I knew a guy in Madison, Wisconsin, who was going for a mint complete only N64 set. He would open the sealed games and sell me his boxes. So that's interesting. There isn't really a single prized piece that he's after, but the World of Nintendo, fiber optic, always gets the most attention. That's his favorite piece, is that. And again, I'll get at least $1,000 at this point.
Mine's still on for sale.
Final thoughts. I thought you sold it. You find my Caltron manual. Final thoughts. Collecting 6 to 7 years ago was so much fun. I don't know why you're giving me the finger. You screwed me out of that. Every Saturday, I could stop at a garage sale or Goodwill and find a bunch of retro games for dirt cheap. Craigslist and eBay were flooded with parents who wanted to get their kids' shit out of basements and attics. Yes. But a couple of years ago, the hobby started booming. A couple of years, I'd say 3 or 4 at least. More collectors got into the scene, and finding anything locally became more of a chore than anything I actually enjoyed. Within the past year, I've only made a couple of cool purchases, which made me realize that my hunt for games was just as fun or more fun than actually playing the games themselves. Cheers, Charles. Pat, happy to buy you a beer and some cheese curds if you ever happen to be in Wisconsin. Thanks,
I like
Charles.
cheese curds too.
But it's important because it's something you hear from... Yeah, Ian's invited to. We can go to the next Tecmo Bowl tournament. It's something you hear about Thrill of the Hunt being important too.
Yeah.
Going out to garage sales. The competitive nature has gotten to the point where, yes, it is really hard to find stuff at flea markets, or he goes to garage sales, things like that anymore. And it's just a combination of things. You realize that, sometimes you just look and say, hey, do I really need all these games? Where's my life gone? Why am I in my late 30s and not making any headway with anything in my personal endeavors or business?
Because all pro basketball was something you had to have.
What? Oh, you're saying something? Oh, okay. Yeah, all pro basketball. Yeah, 2 stars. So anyway, there you go, Charles. Good luck. I think you sold your collection already. I might send you an email right now. Hey, did you sell your collection? I'll put a little text thing. You can answer me by tomorrow. Hey, did you end up selling? I saw the listing gone. Smiley face. Okay. Any last thoughts, Ian? No. Okay, great. Awesome. My life means nothing.